Hello and welcome. My name is Levi. Today I'll be giving an overview of the city of Conway as well as the surrounding Little Rock metropolitan area. I'll be presenting some key metrics such as population trends, educational attainment, and also tax rates for the local governments. Essentially all the factors that shape the city's trajectory, as well as some of the possible reasons why businesses might want to relocate here. I'm a senior this year. I have been attending the University of Arkansas for 2 years now. I've moved here 2 years ago, roughly, and I found Conway to be a good place to live and quite underrated. So after today's presentation, hopefully you'll agree with me. And without further ado, we can get started. So to begin, we can always start with what makes a city what it actually is, and that is, of course, the people. In the case of Conway, the population is just over 67,000. The surrounding Little Rock metropolitan area stands at about 757,000. On the right here, you can see a graph depicting the trend of population growth over the last odd 30 or so years. Just in the last 14 or so years, you can see a growth that represents roughly 10%, which is quite significant. And I will explain some of the reasons why this might be, why people are continuing to move here in the following presentation. And just on a side note, for everything I cite today, all the graphs and statistics, the sources will be cited on the bottom left. So these are the racial mix-ups of Conway, which is fairly average for Arkansas. It stands about 70% white, 20% black, and the rest being mixed or other races. And right here is one of the reasons why Arkansas stands out in terms of population and also why businesses might want to locate here, and that is the educational attainment that is received from the population. For Conway, less than 5% of the population have received lesser than high school education. Of course, any percentage here is not great, but in the case of Conway as well as Little Rock, this is actually fairly good compared to the rest of the state. At high school education, we have roughly 94%, and 23% of the population have received at least some college education, and roughly 40% of the population in Conway here hold a bachelor degree, which is what makes it stand out from the rest of the state, because statewide Arkansas's population, on average, only 24% of adults hold a bachelor degree. And in the case of Conway, a more educated populace means that there are more skilled and capable workers locating here. They're on average more productive for businesses, and they also promote further economic development because college educated populations on average have higher disposable incomes. Here are some of the notable educational institutes located here in Conway. We have, of course, the University of Central Arkansas, followed by Hendrix Central Baptist College, Arkansas State University, as well as the Community College of Morton, a branch of the University of Arkansas. Here we have the labor participation rate for Conway at 61%. That is fairly average. The unemployment rate stands at about 3.4%. Again, fairly average for the state as well as nationwide. The minimum wage stands at 11 per hour, which is, again, fairly average. It kind of is a middle between the federal mandated $7 an hour, as well as some of the higher minimum wages in states such as California, which is 15. So it more or less balances the needs of minimum wage workers, as well as the demands of some of the businesses that are trying to operate in the state. And Arkansas is a right to work state, meaning that employees are not compelled to join a labor union. So businesses might have an easier time with lower labor costs because they don't have to negotiate with unions or pay union dues for all their employees. These are some of the key local employers here in Conway. We have the University of Arkansas again, some IT companies, as well as more educational institutes and banking institutions. Right here, we have some of the cost of living statistics for Conway. The medium home price is just short of $300,000. Medium rent is just shy of $1,000, and an average monthly mortgage is about $1,500. These prices are really fairly low for the state as well as nationwide, especially. For example, the average home nationwide costs about $400,000. So this being about 3/4 of that. And that's more or less consistent for the median rent as well as the median monthly mortgage. So again, if we go over to the previous slide, you can see some of the IT companies locating here. And these is one of the key reasons why people are moving to Conway because of the low housing prices and cost of living. As companies become more remote, a lot of remote workers will be looking towards areas that are lower in cost of living, as well have more sustainable home prices. This is just a little bit about the community and culture here in Conway. We have very moderate weather, mostly year round. So the quality of life in Conway is, again, really bolstered by a low cost of living and affordable housing. There's also various parks and retail locations that are within accessible distances. And if you combine that with the nice weather that we have for the majority of the year, that makes it a great place to live. And we also have a lot of sports and recreations, including right here at UCA. We have the Bear Stadium, Faulkner County Museum, and the median household income here is about $58,000, which again, that goes a lot further here because of the low cost of living. These are a list of travel times by automobile to other metropolitan areas around the country. Conway is, of course, in the middle of Arkansas, which is in itself surrounded by a cluster of states, which makes it fairly convenient to reach a variety of locations. As you can see, it's about 5 hours from my hometown of Dallas, but it's also fairly close to other areas of industry, such as Bentonville, which is just over 2.5 hours, and Fayetteville, which is just over 2 hours. This is the primary route of transport for international businesses. The Bill and Hillary Clinton National Airport, the top-bound destinations include Atlanta, Georgia, Chicago, and DFW. As for international destinations, Cancun and other Mexican destinations, perhaps for vacations, perhaps for business. This is the tax environment here in Conway, which is essential to the running of any business. The mileage weight in Conway is about 50.6 for the city and a little lower than that, 46.4 for rural areas. For state and local taxes, it's about 6.5 for Arkansas statewide, 0.5% for Faulkner County, and Conway is just under 2% at 1.75. With local taxes of 1.75, Conway is actually comparatively low against nearby areas. For reference, Bentonville sits at about 2%, and that goes the same for Fort Smith, as well as Fayetteville. Texarkana, to the best of my knowledge, is 2.5%. So in closing, some of the great reasons why businesses might want to relocate to Conway are, number one, we have a young and educated populace. So the median age in Conway is about 29, just shy of 30. So Conway possesses a much younger population than the state average of about 40. And young adults are the cohort that are the most creative, the most willing to take risks and really drive innovation. So for businesses who are seeking young talent, Conway is a great place to be. And you combine that with the local taxes, which are fairly low compared to surrounding areas, that makes it an even better place to relocate. And to compound this, the city is constantly improving its infrastructure. I think anybody who's been to Conway can attest to that with the amount of roundabouts that we're having and continue to have. And these just really enhance safety as well as reduce congestion and shipping times. These also provide better access to industrial areas and distribution centers and transportation hubs because they maintain smoother traffic and reduce queue intersections. This essentially enhances the efficiency of any logistic operations, such as loading times of goods. And that makes it essential for any business operation to locate in a place with good infrastructure, such as Conway. That concludes my presentation today. Thank you very much for your time. I hope it was interesting. I hope it was informative and that you learned something new about our city. Thank you very much.